Hold on tight because what's about to unfold could shake global politics to its very core. Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky are set to meet in just days, and the stakes, absolutely unprecedented. A $500 billion minerals deal is on the table, a price tag so astronomical that it might just change the course of the Ukraine war forever. Some are calling it a masterstroke in diplomacy, others are calling it a blatant power grab, but one thing's for sure, this is a once-in-a-generation moment that could redefine America's role in Ukraine and reshape the global balance of power. The deal, in simple terms, would see Ukraine hand over a massive chunk of its mineral wealth, lithium, rare earth metals, and other critical resources, as repayment for US wartime aid. In return, Ukraine would receive massive American investment into its economy, turning the war-torn country into a key strategic partner for Washington. The Biden administration may have talked about endless military support, but Trump, he's coming in with cold, hard business deals, a move that could end the war and make America the ultimate kingmaker in Eastern Europe. And then there's the timing, because this isn't just happening on any random day. 3 years ago to the day, Putin's forces rolled into Ukraine, expecting a swift 3-day victory. Fast forward to now, and Russia is bleeding resources, struggling to hold ground, and being urged to negotiate. Putin's nightmare? Trump swooping in and making a deal that locks Ukraine firmly in America's grip, forcing Moscow into the most humiliating climb-down in modern Russian history. Trump himself was brimming with confidence when he addressed the press at the White House, fresh from a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. "We're looking at something very historic, very soon," he declared, his signature smirk barely contained. "This could be this week, it could be next week, but we're getting something done, something big." The implications? Massive. America isn't just looking at helping Ukraine survive this war, it's positioning itself to own the post-war reconstruction, taking a direct financial interest in Ukraine's future. Forget military aid that disappears into the battlefield. Trump is talking long-term economic stakes, securing a US-Ukraine alliance that could outlast any presidential term. But not everyone is celebrating. Critics are already slamming the deal, calling it modern colonialism in disguise. Handing over $500 billion in minerals, that's not just a business agreement, that's selling out Ukraine's future to Washington, they argue. And what happens if another president reverses course? Does Ukraine risk becoming a pawn in a never-ending US power game? The Kremlin is watching closely, no doubt fuming at the prospect of a deal that would further weaken Russia's influence in its own backyard. If Trump and Zelensky shake hands on this agreement, Putin's leverage in peace talks could be completely obliterated. The Russian propaganda machine is already gearing up, calling it a betrayal of Ukraine's sovereignty. But let's be real, Moscow's real fear is that Trump pulls off what Putin himself couldn't, securing Ukraine's future in one move. Now, let's switch gears, because while Trump is making waves internationally, back home, Keir Starmer is drowning in his own political nightmare. Labour MP Mike Amesbury has just been jailed for a violent assault, and the fallout, absolutely brutal. Amesbury, a sitting MP for Runcorn and Helsby, has been sentenced to 10 weeks behind bars for a drunken, vicious attack on a constituent. The details are beyond damning. The CCTV footage shows him sucker-punching a voter, a 45-year-old man, before proceeding to pummel him even after he was down. And just to make things even worse, he declared after the attack, "You won't threaten the MP ever again, will you?" This isn't just an isolated scandal. This could trigger a by-election and become a nightmare for Keir Starmer. Reform UK is already gearing up for a fight, with Nigel Farage immediately demanding Amesbury resign rather than wait for a recall petition. And with Tory candidates already preparing for battle, Starmer might be facing his first real electoral test before a general election is even announced. Amesbury's seat, once seen as safe Labour territory, but now, Reform UK is surging, with thousands of angry voters already signing petitions calling for an election. This is no longer just about one MP's disgraceful actions. This is about Labour's credibility and whether Starmer can control his party before Reform UK and the Tories start tearing into his voter base. Starmer rushed to distance himself from Amesbury, calling the assault completely unacceptable and making it clear that Labour had booted him out immediately. But will that be enough? If the recall petition gets 10% of constituents on board, a by-election will be triggered, and given that 5% have already signed another petition calling for a general election, Labour should be very, very nervous. And just when you thought this couldn't get any more dramatic, enter ex-Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley, who just launched into a scathing attack over Amesbury's sentencing. Bleksley, never one to hold back, tore into the justice system, calling Amesbury's 10-week sentence a joke. "This doesn't reflect the seriousness of the crime," he said, his voice dripping with outrage. "This was a sitting MP attacking a member of the public, a violent, unprovoked assault, and we're meant to accept that 10 weeks is enough? I'd be looking at a couple of years, at a minimum. And here's the kicker, Amesbury won't even serve the full sentence. Thanks to Britain's early release scheme, he could be out in just a fraction of that time, potentially walking free in just weeks." Bleksley wasn't having it. "This sends the wrong message completely. What kind of deterrent is this? MPs are meant to set an example. What kind of example is this? The reaction? Fury across the board. People are calling this a disgrace, a slap on the wrist for a violent crime. Labour is desperately trying to move on, but Reform UK and the Tories, they smell blood. With voters already furious over Labour's tax policies, winter fuel payment cuts, and inheritance tax on farmers, this could be the moment Labour starts bleeding seats. The recall process could take weeks, but the political war has already begun. Reform UK's Zia Yusuf has made his position crystal clear. The great people of Runcorn deserve better. They should not be forced to wait 6 weeks for a recall petition. Mike Amesbury must resign now. And here's the reality. Labour's worst-case scenario. They lose Runcorn and Helsby in a by-election. If that happens, it will send shockwaves through British politics, proving that Reform UK is not just a protest vote, it's a real threat to Labour's dominance. So, the question now is, what happens next? Will Trump seal the deal with Ukraine, leaving Biden and Putin in the dust? Will Reform UK deal a major blow to Labour in a by-election showdown? And most importantly, are we about to witness a political earthquake that could reshape global and domestic politics all at once? The drama is far from over, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Drop a comment below. Should Ukraine sign Trump's deal? Should Mike Amesbury resign immediately? And hit that subscribe button, because this story is only getting bigger. Huge development. Trump-Zelensky deal faces shocking new threat. Just when it looked like Donald Trump was about to pull off one of the biggest geopolitical deals in history, a major roadblock has emerged, and this one could throw the entire agreement into complete chaos. New reports indicate that powerful forces inside Washington and Kyiv are actively trying to derail the $500 billion minerals deal, fearing that it could hand America too much control over Ukraine's future. It's the ultimate showdown. Trump and his allies pushing for a groundbreaking business-first approach to ending the Ukraine war, while Biden-backed forces within the US government and some Ukrainian officials are resisting the plan, worried that Ukraine is selling off its national wealth for short-term gains. And now, the clock is ticking. Behind closed doors, sources are saying that Ukraine's parliament is divided. Zelensky is under immense pressure from nationalists who oppose ceding any control over Ukraine's critical resources to foreign powers. Some are even calling it a new form of economic colonization, a deal that could make Ukraine financially dependent on America for generations. But on the other side, those who see this as Ukraine's only real shot at survival, a lifeline that could not only end the war, but also rebuild the nation with American investment. And then there's the Biden factor. While Trump is leading negotiations, the White House isn't happy about being sidelined in such a major international deal. Could we see last-minute sabotage from US officials who want to stop Trump from getting a diplomatic victory before the election? And let's not forget, if Biden wins in November, he could try to kill the deal altogether, leaving Ukraine in economic limbo. Meanwhile, Putin is watching all of this unfold, and you can bet he's looking for ways to exploit the division. If Ukraine hesitates, does Putin use the moment to strike? Could Moscow push forward with a new offensive, sensing weakness and internal chaos? This is now a battle of time, pressure, and politics. If Trump and Zelensky want this deal to go through, they need to act fast before opposition forces can shut it down. Will Trump outmaneuver the political swamp and secure a historic victory, or will Ukraine's deep divisions sink the whole plan before it even gets off the ground? What do you think? Should Ukraine go all in on the Trump deal, or is this a dangerous gamble? Drop a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe. This story is moving fast.